Yo, what is going on? This is your boy, ThatGuyFace with Face the Music Media. This is episode 2 of the podcast, Radio for Music Creators. I'm super excited about episode 2. We back again. We're in this thing. And in today's episode, we will be discussing the importance of independence. Now, why is independence so important? Well, the reason why independence is so important is because you work so hard to, perfect your craft, and you put so much time into learning, and you put so much time into taking this art, which is really an expression of you, and presenting it to the world that, it feels really bad. And it's really infuriating when somebody takes advantage of that and really takes that and enhances their living situation based on your hard work. This is why independence is so important. And having someone that has basically walked in the footsteps that you want to walk in, having their experiences to go off of is extremely important, because even when you have something to look back on, it's still hard to make decisions based on that. Being actually thrown into the fire is a little different, but at least having as many stories to go off of and as many people to turn back and say, okay, what did they go through? Having that is vital, because, if you look back over history and the information that's presented to you based on people's experiences, that is one of your best teachers. Okay. So even though I had plenty of stories to go off of and, plenty of movies and articles and even people that had experiences that they went through, I still made mistakes. I wish I would have taken into account the stories that I heard and the movies that I watched. I wish I really would have took that to heart and I gotta make sure I'm on point. But when you're hype and you're in the beginning processes of pursuing your passion and you're actually getting some success, it becomes extremely easy to forget about all those things and just fall right into some traps, man. And a lot of people that know this will prey on that. And that's the one thing about Hollywood, man. They know when you come out, you're just wide open. You're wide open. This is why they choose people that don't really have a lot of experience to do business with, because it's easier to take advantage of them because they're wide open. And a lot of times, when you're new, you'll downplay your gut feeling and your gut instinct. You'll downplay it just for the experience, really, and the position that you're in. Even though you feel like, something's not right, man. Something feels off. You'll downplay that with, well, you know what? I'm in these big sessions and I'm getting these opportunities that I never had before, or they're offering me these opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise, quote unquote. You'll downplay your personal feelings and your gut instinct for that. So basically, when I first moved to LA, I just signed a publishing deal, and the company at the time was new to the game, even though it was a major producer. He was signed to a major and he had hits on the radio, but it was still new to him. So everybody's new in this experience. And like I said in the first podcast, it was me and 2 of my other cousins. We were all new, never signed any kind of deal before, any kind of contract for publishing or anything for entertainment to work and create something for a company. So it was all brand new. And the guy that signed us, he was from where we were from. And like I said before in the previous podcast, my cousin already knew him. So there was a certain level of trust there. So when we signed our deal, we didn't even have our own attorneys. They basically provided an attorney for us, which, looking back, was the first red flag. Okay. If you're going into a situation to do business and to partner up with someone to do business, you don't want to just depend on their attorneys. That's just an absolute no-no. Even if it's a good situation, you always get your own team that only represent you. This attorney, we totally trusted because they too were from Kansas City, Missouri, where we were all from. So we felt like, man, this is crazy. We're signing this new deal with a successful producer with huge records on the radio. He's from Kansas City. The attorney's from Kansas City. We're from Kansas City. We're all just going to put Kansas City on the map. So it really created this environment of trust perceived trust, because we felt like we had never been in that situation. So we were totally like, yeah, he wouldn't screw us over. Like, if the attorney's saying this is a good deal and they're saying, they're breaking it down, even though we didn't understand a lot of the stuff that was in the contract, kind of similar to what Meg Thee Stallion is going through right now. Like how, if you look at her situation, Meg Thee Stallion is now mad about her deal and saying that she didn't know and fully understand what was in her deal when she signed it. And this is something that many artists, producers, writers, most of these people that sign deals when they're young or when they, are not in business and they just all of a sudden jump into business, they don't understand the extent of these contracts and how vital it is for you to get a second opinion. And if you don't have a manager, or, if you don't have parents that have done business, or uncles or whatever that have done business that will say, hey man, you might want to get a second opinion, then you are wide open. But like I was saying before, we signed this contract, not understanding, knowing that we didn't fully understand, but according to our attorney, their attorney, it was a good deal. We signed this contract, got this little bit of money, and we kind of felt like, I don't know, this ain't really the type of money that we expected that we would get. But, of course, our attorney reassured us. Well, their attorney reassured us. No, you guys don't have any placements. So, this is actually really good for you to get this much money, even though you don't have any placements. They're doing this all on faith. So we were like, all right, you know what? At the time, the producer was just pumping us up with all these dreams. And by next year, you guys will have 100 placements. You'll have millions of dollars. You'll have hits on the radio like I do. Blah, blah, blah. And we believed it because he did have hits on the radio. And at the time, we were already working on projects that, were potentially going to be placed. So, it was all set up for us to just fall into, what they were saying, because we were already working with big artists, potentially about to have hits on the radio, about to have major placements before we even got to LA. So it was like, there's no way that we're going to move to LA and not get major placements. So we jumped in and we signed the deal. Get to LA, and the experience was we worked on numerous amount of records, and one cousin was a writer only. Two of us were writer producers. So we did mostly production. We signed to a producer, which ended up being kind of a battle because there's always ego between creatives and producers and writers and this and that. And long story short, it really kind of ended up being a situation where, the producer that we signed to really just wanted to focus on him and not really focus on us. But it worked for one of my cousins because he was a writer. So he kind of took him everywhere to write. But as far as production, he would just go to these sessions and then bring us stuff back and say, hey, jump on this and, turn it in, and it's for such and such, it's for such and such. And, after a while, we kind of realized, like, I don't know, we never really got any traction, basically. So long story short, all three of us got out of the situation. We walked away. We realized, you know what? This deal is really not about building us as writers and producers. It's just about building him and maintaining his library. But, we were better than that. And we understood, we got so much more to offer than to just help you keep your catalog flourished. So ultimately, everybody walked away from that deal that was signed to that deal. Literally everybody walked away. It just didn't work out. And my next experience, I worked with a film and TV music licensing company. And like I said in my previous podcast, a buddy of mine that was in my previous deal, he had linked up with this new company. And basically they would submit songs for film and TV placements. And, they would give us requirements and say, hey, we need, this type of song. We need this type of vocal. We need this type of beat, whatever the case. We would do it and submit it. And basically they needed some more songs. So my buddy reached out to me and he's like, well, I know he's fresh out his deal. Let me try to help him out, pull him into the situation. At that point, he already had multiple placements, multiple songs and huge shows and movies and this and that. pulled me in. So I started working with the company, got multiple placements. But what I realized is I'm not seeing any of these songs registered with ASCAP. I'm not seeing any of these songs on IMDb. I'm hearing them on TV shows. I got family members, buddies calling me like, yo, man, I could have swore I just heard your track and blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely got about 3 in there. Yeah, I got 2 in there, And I'm like, man. So I start contacting the company like, yo, man, why are my credits not showing up on IMDb or ASCAP? Are you putting my name in? Like, what's going on? Long story short, they were not. And I literally had to force them to do so. Literally, even though we signed contracts that I would get 100% of my writer's share, and they would take the publishing, which now thinking back, I would never do that again. But at the time, I had my daughter out in LA living with me, and it was just us 2. And I'm like, I didn't have a job. I was there to do music. So I said, you know what? I got to do what I got to do. I got to hustle. I got to, maybe after a year, I'll have enough songs where, I'll have enough income coming in from royalties. But after I realized that they were not going to do what they were supposed to do, and that I'm going to have to press and probably pursue them legally, I came to a conclusion that something's got to change. And they basically told me they don't want to communicate with my manager. And, my manager's like, I don't like this deal, man. I really don't. I understand you got to do what you got to do. So do what you got to do. But I'm just letting you know right now, I don't like how they get down. I've been in the business for so many years, and I can already kind of smell the signs and see the signs of, kind of a janky little situation. So I don't know if you should be doing this. And I said, you know what? I know they don't want to communicate with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here. I can stand on my own too. I'll report everything to you, and then we'll do it like that. She's like, okay. Sure enough, it turned out Grimes. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I ended up having to, pursue them legally, and they did enter in some of the stuff, but then they didn't even enter in the right percentage. So I'm supposed to get 100% of my writers. They would enter in some of my credit, and then it would be so many different writers and producers and all these other people on the song. I'm like, yo, what is going on? So they were basically taking their team and putting their team on records that other people are producing so they can get them some deals and get them further along in their career, because they couldn't write the way that we did. So they would just piggyback off of our music and our placements and just throw their team on there to help them out. So in order to keep the rest of their team that was there before and that was working with them for years afloat, they just attached them to our songs and attached them to our placements. So this is why I say independence is so important, man. You have people out here that are literally building an empire off of other people's art. And I still tell my manager to this day, I still apologize to her. And I say, you know what, man, I really hate that I made those decisions that I did. And I hate that I didn't trust you enough and listen to you enough to say, you know what, I'm good on this. You know what, I trust myself. I know I have what it takes, so I can do it myself. If it takes me staying up all night, I'll do that. If it takes me contacting 1,000, music supervisors or whatever the case, I'll do that. But at the time, I just couldn't see it like that because, I felt like I didn't want to fail, and I didn't want to have to tell my daughter, well, I failed, I didn't do it. So I went against her word and kept dealing with that company, even though I knew internally I should not. So now here I am with all these songs on all these movies and TV shows. And I'm like, man, meanwhile, they're raking in millions of dollars. Now I'm going to have to wait. I'm going to have to wait to get what's mine in court. I'm going to have to wait, I'll get what's mine eventually, but I could have avoided all of that by, for one, just listening to my manager who had been in the game for years, dealing with publishing, dealing with these companies, dealing with artists, dealing with publishing companies, dealing with the whole entertainment industry, and trusting in myself enough to know that I can just do it myself. Me and her, we could just do it. But everything happens for a reason. It's everything that I went through added to the fire that I had for FaceTheMusic Media. And this is the reason why I'm doing this podcast now. Because of everything that I've gone through, I want to share with artists, writers, producers, whoever is trying to pursue entertainment and music specifically. I want to share my experiences with them just to make sure that they know, hey, these are some things that could go down if you go down this path. So, ultimately trusting people and, a desire for money and even though, I needed money to pay my bills, but I allowed that need and desire to have money and my desire to be successful and to get major placements and, to be, amongst the higher ranks of writers and producers. It just made me look past my gut feeling. And so just make sure when you're pursuing a career as an artist, writer, producer, whatever it is, make sure that you don't allow these things to let you look past your gut feelings or past what people are telling you. Listen, you know what I mean? Have enough faith in yourself. Not that I didn't have faith in myself, but I have to, accept the fact that I didn't have as much faith as I needed to just go ahead and do it myself. And just don't ever get to that point. Know that you are enough and that you can make things happen for you, period. You can make things happen. And what happens is when you make things happen for yourself, you get better offers. You get better deal offers. If you do want to sign to a major, if you're already popping, they're going to step to you correct because you're already doing it yourself. What are they going to offer you that you don't already have if you're getting it popping yourself? What kind of deal are you going to sign if you're already generating income from your music, if you already have a fan base, if you already have the outlets to release your music and a place to, share with your fans? You already got everything set. What are they going to offer you? How are they going to play you when you're already in that position? It's extremely hard. It makes it extremely hard for them to screw you over because at that point you don't need it. So when you eliminate that need, it makes you move a little different because now I don't need anything. Now all the moves that I'm making, they're just out of, do I want to do this deal? Is this something that I want to do? If it is, great. If it's not, I don't really need that. But if you need money, they can dangle that. If you feel like you need placements, they know. And they'll dangle it in front of you and they'll get you to make bad decisions. So never, ever be motivated by a need, ever. Always step back and say, you know what, let me really assess this. And always listen to the people in your life that are, giving you advice. If they feel something, if they think something's weird, don't just downplay it. Don't just say, well, they don't know. Then, no, just step back. It doesn't hurt to step back and say, all right, well, let me just assess what they're saying and then assess the situation. If it applies, great. If it does not, keep it moving. But I had an all the way manager in place that was warning me. If they're telling you not to communicate with me, it's because ultimately they're going to do you bad. And I said, you know what? I need the money now. They're paying me now. And ultimately, I'm going to have to pursue them legally to get fully what's owed to me. Yeah, they entered in some of the stuff eventually, but they didn't do it right. And they did it way after the fact, which means there's royalties that I missed that went into their pockets. I'm going to have to sue to get that back. So I could have avoided all of that by just listening to my manager. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I decided I need to talk about this independence thing just overall. And I wanted to have my company focus on independence because it's just so tough when you spend so much time being creative and putting in the work to learn and perfect your craft and then start to create and have someone just take that from you. It's tough, man. And it'll make you, go places mentally that you really don't want to go. And physically, sometimes, you might end up running up on somebody and you can make a decision that will, ruin your life. So I really want to emphasize independence, man. You relieve yourself of a lot of that stress and drama by being independent. And like I said before, independence allows you to set up better situations. They'll step to you a little bit different. There's a different level of respect that they put on your name when you got your stuff cracking and you got everything and you're doing it yourself. This is why I'm doing the podcast. This is why I'm doing my business, because if I decide later on that I do want to partner up with some folks or do some other, they're going to step to me correct because I won't need them and they'll know I don't need you. So this will force them to come at me differently. Out of all of this, man, I ended up with over 200 tracks and, a number of songs that they control. They're submitting, they're putting their name on it. My production, my art, my babies. They're putting their name on it and then breaking me off a little piece. So I said, you know what? I need to take that same energy that I used to complete all of those projects And I need to do it for myself. I need to make my own songs. I need to make my own tracks, for me to submit, for me to use, for me to do business with on my behalf, not through some company. Not to say that you can't work with a company and do business. You can, but you run a high risk of them taking your stuff. Unless you listen to the ones that came before you and that are letting you know what time it is out here. So with that being said, man, this is ThatGuyFace with FaceTheMusic Media. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 2 of Radio for Music Creators. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hey, and you know what? I can't wait to hear some of the stories that you guys have. So do me a favor, down in the comments below, tell me some of your experiences that you've experienced out here in the game. What have you been through with some of these companies and, working with, producers or writers or whatever the case. So go ahead and like this video, share it, let everybody know what's going on. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and stay tuned because we're going to be dropping more podcasts. And as well, we're also going to be doing tutorial videos on how you too can be an independent artist. And, we're going to be doing tutorials on how to, release your album, record vocals, mix, all these things. So stay tuned. And if you have any suggestions for, topics that you want me to cover, go ahead and leave a comment below. Hey, always remember, man, you are enough and you have what it takes. So with that being said, let's go out there and be great. Until the next time, man, I'm out.
Face the Music Media.